Hey guys, happy Thursday. Today is October 15th, 2020. Today we will continue our subtraction with decimals. Yesterday we started addition with decimals. Today we are going to continue on with subtraction with decimals. Today your objective is we will represent and solve subtraction equations with decimals through the hundredths place. Take a moment, pause the video, and add subtraction with decimals to your table of contents, and also turn your journal to a new clean page and add that as the title of today's lesson, subtraction with decimals. On your new clean page and underneath today's title, Subtraction with Decimals, I want you to add the following anchor chart. If you need to pause the video here and go ahead and start writing it down, that is totally fine. I'm going to read out what you should be writing, but make sure you get the following anchor chart that is there in front of you. It says subtracting decimals. Your steps, which are the same as addition, is first you have to line up your numbers by lining up the decimals. You drop your decimal down to your answer, which is the difference today because we're doing subtraction, is your step 2. Your step 3 is you fill in your 0 as your place value holder, and then you solve the equation. For example, 14 and 84 hundredths minus 7 and 9 hundredths equals what? So below you see that we have a place value chart, and I have written in 14 and 84 hundredths. Below that I put my subtraction sign, then 7 and 9 tenths. The decimals are lined up. Then you put in your equal sign. Then I put in a 0 in orange for my place value holder. And then I begin my work to solve. 4 minus 0 equals 4. And then in the tenths place, 9 cannot be taken away from 8. So I borrowed from my ones place. My 4 became a 3, and my 8 became 18. Then I subtracted 18 minus 9, which gives the 9 that is in the tenths place. I dropped down my decimal place. Then 7 cannot be taken away from 3. So then we borrow from your tens place, making the 1 a 0, and your 3 becomes 13. Then you subtract 13 minus 7 for 6. The difference of 14 and 84 hundredths minus 7 and 9 tenths is 6 and 94 hundredths. If you need to, pause the video here and go ahead and write that down in your journal. So next you see an I do. I am going to walk through a couple of equations of how you guys are going to work through these problems and finding how to write them down as mathematical equations to be able to solve to find the difference. So as you can see, the steps are the same as addition, but there's one more step that you have to remember. Remember when we talked about subtraction, and when you subtract, the larger value number has to go on top. So that is an important part of this, is you have to figure out which one of these numbers that are given to you is the greater number. So right now you don't need to write these down in your journal. I just want you to put your pencils down and really focus as I walk through these first two and show you what you will need to be doing when it is your turn. So again, just put your pencils down and watch as I go through these steps. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at these two problems that are here. I have 5 and 75 kilograms, and I have 12 and 6/10 kilograms. Now, if I'm looking at the whole number, I have a 5 and I have a 12. 12 is greater than 5. So that number is the one that I'm going to put first. So before the decimal, I'm going to write my 12. I'm going to make my decimal a little bit darker so that you can see it. And I finish it up. I have 6 tenths. Then underneath that, I have 5 ones. So watch as where I put that. 5 ones. I'm lining up the decimals and 75 hundredths. So we lined them up by the decimals. My larger place value number is on the top. I'm going to drop down my decimal to my answer. It just goes straight down. Same thing as yesterday. And then we're going to fill in our space value holder. So I'm going to switch my color up. I'm going to stick in zeros where there's holes. 0 there. 0 there. So now I can subtract. I can't take 5 from 0, so I'm going to borrow from my 6. My 6 is going to become a 5. My 0 then becomes a 10. So 10 minus 5, that drops down. There's my 5. I cannot take 7 from 5. I have to borrow from my 2. My 2 becomes a 1. Then my 1 moves over for 15. 15 minus 7 is 8. And I can't take 5 from 1, so I have to go over here, take 1 away, that becomes a 0. And my 1 becomes an 11. 11 minus 5 is 6. And 0 minus 0 is a 0. You don't have to put the 0. I'm going to leave it blank so you can see the answer. So when you work through it, the only difference is you have to make sure the decimals are lined up. The subtraction is still the same. And when you take 12 and 6 tenths and you subtract 5 and 75 hundredths from it, you are left with 6 and 85 hundredths. We're going to go through another one, so stay with me here. We're going to practice a couple of more, but I'm going to do one more with you. These get to be kind of confusing because, look, you can see here this has 2 digits, this has 3 digits that are there. Sometimes the students are like, hey, I don't know which one is bigger. So you have to be able to analyze these and know which place value is bigger. So I have 5 tenths and I have 15 hundredths. If I stick my 0 here, I can look to see that 50 is greater than 15. So the 5 tenths is actually the bigger number that's going to go on the top. So I need to line up my decimals and those decimal houses the way that they're supposed to go. So my first number is going to be 0, and then a 5, and then a 0, and then this should be a different color because that is a place value holder. So I'm going to go ahead and create that there. And then switch back to my purple. And I have 0 and 15. 15. So then we do our subtraction, same thing. So then I'm going to think, oh, I can't take 5 from 0. This becomes a 4. This becomes 10. Then I can subtract 10 minus 5. 10 minus 5 is, let me see, 5. 4 minus 3 is 3. And I drop down for 35 hundredths. So that is what we're working on today. We're working on subtraction of decimals. The biggest part is trying to figure out which number is greater than the other. And so we're going to work through a couple of more on our own right now. So in your journal, I want you to look at this next one. I want you to try to create this next one in your journals here. And you're going to pause the video here. You're going to think about 4 and 85 hundredths and 13 and 1 kilogram. You're going to think about which one of those is greater, which one of those is less than, and you're going to plug them in and try to subtract. So I want you to pause the video here, see if you can do it on your own, writing it down inside of your journals, lining up your digits, and I'll check back in with you here in just a second. Okay, so you should have that 13 and 1/10 is greater than 4 and 85/100ths. Then you plugged in your zeros. Then you're thinking to yourself, 5 can't take away from 0, so it regroups. You take 1 away, it becomes 10. You should have a 5 in your answer. Then we had to regroup and borrow again, making the 3 a 2. 10 minus 8 is 2. We had to regroup and borrow again, making your 1 a 0, and your 2 becomes a 12. 12 minus 4 is 8. Now pause the video here, make sure that your answer is correct, and you've checked to make sure that you've done everything correctly. Fix whatever needs to be fixed here. We're going to practice 2 more here, and I'm hoping we can stick to time. And here we have 6 and 65 hundredths kilograms and 10 and 21 hundredths kilograms. You need to know that your 10 and 21 kilograms is your bigger, so make sure you line that up correctly. And you line up your 6 and 65 here. Now, get this written inside of your journal and go ahead and solve, and then we'll check back in to make sure you did your work correctly. So pause the video here. Okay, so if you have your equation written down, you can figure out that 5 can't be taken away from 1, so you have to borrow from your 2. Your 2 becomes a 1. 1 becomes 11. 11 minus 5, you should have a 6. Then you can't take 6 from 1, so you have to borrow. Oh, we have a 0. So we go to our tens place, take 1 away, it becomes 0. This becomes a 10. You cross it off, becoming a 9. Now you can do all your subtraction. 11 minus 6 is 5. 9 minus 6 is 3. And your answer is 3 and 56 hundredths. Pause the video here. Check and make sure your math is correct. And last one that we are going to have time to do on this is one more practice. And you have 7/10 and 49 hundredths. 7/10 is greater than. So I want you to go ahead and write 7/10 and minus 49 hundredths. On this one, make sure you plug in your zeros where they need to go, and then begin subtracting. Remember, you can't take 9 from 0, so pause the video here, try to do your subtraction. I'll see you in just a minute. So you should have thought to yourself, I can't take 9 from 0, so I'm going to borrow 1 from my 7. 7 becomes a 6. This becomes 10. 10 minus 9 is 1. 6 minus 4 is 2. I drop down my decimal, and if you want to put your 0, your final answer is 21 hundredths. Pause the video here, make sure that your answers are correct. We have walked through 3 questions. Make sure that you have these examples written in your journal to refer back to. And the next part that we are going to do is our exit ticket. You are going to go out into breakout groups. You need to find your Orgo student journal. It is on page 236. And again, it is exit ticket number 236. It is number 1, A, B, and C. You guys are going to break out into small groups and work these together, and then we'll come back and check before you get to your independent work. Your independent work today is on page 237. There are 9 subtraction equations that you will have to build yourself and then be able to take a picture of it, turn it in for your exit or for your independent work today. So right now, we're going to pause the video here and take a stopping break, and I will see you guys on your exit ticket. Exit ticket, page 236 in your Orgo student journal, and I'll see you guys there.